Hello and welcome to SQL Fundamentals class. My name is Mildred. This is the first week of lessons, and this week we are going to look at how to set up our system and then look at how to query data and how to sort data. First of all, if you are a Windows user, you need to download all the dependencies that you need before you download and install MySQL Workbench. The first thing you want to do is to make sure you have Microsoft Visual C++ Distributable downloaded. You can come to this link to get it downloaded and installed. You install the correct one for your operating system version, and then you go to MySQL community to download and install MySQL server, and then you want to now download MySQL Workbench. You can go a different route and just download to install this, and it installs the dependencies, but most of the time it will now tell you don't have the support, and so you want to just go in this order of having the redistributable first, having the MySQL server, and then MySQL Workbench. The link to this download will be available in your course resources. So once downloaded and you install, the next thing you want to do is to start your MySQL Workbench and to start a connection. Now, during your installation, you'll be asked to provide a password for the root user. So when you try to go into your local instance, it will ask you for that password. Now, what we are going to use in this course is the Classic Models database. Now, the Classic Models doesn't come pre-installed, so you need to go download this from another link that I will also send to you. Once you have the Classic Models, it comes in a zip file, and I'll show you an example of how it comes, a zip file here. Once you have this extracted, you want to open it with your MySQL Workbench. You have the file, which is a raw SQL file. You need to run and create a database and the tables. So the first thing I want you to do is to copy up until this line, create table, other details. You want to copy everything to the end of this line. Once copied, and I'm going to copy it to show you, I'll come here, start a new SQL file, and then run. Alright, so you have to do it on your local instance that is connected. Once you run, it will create this database. Once you refresh, you'll find that there. And then you want to go back and copy all of the insert queries from the data. Come here, and you want to copy everything from here to the end and go back to your local instance. This time, before you paste this, the database is already created. You want to start use Classic Models, and then you paste. You're going to paste what you copied from this insert query here and paste it there. So make sure that you are in your connected local instance that you started, not the unconnected file. And then when you run this, it will create all of the data or insert all of the data into that Classic Models database tables that they belong to. So once this is done, you have your database, and then you have all of the tables in the database here. If you want to see everything you have, you can start a new SQL file and say use Classic Models, and then let's select, or let's say show tables. And when we run this, it will tell us the names of all the tables that we have in the Classic Models database, which is the same thing we can see here. Alright, so what is Relational Database Management System? A Relational Database Management System is like a software that allows us to manage relational databases, and an example is this MySQL that we use is a Relational Database Management System. There are others out there, but there are not a lot of them, but we're using MySQL as our Relational Database Management System. But when we talk about relational databases, what do we mean? So when we have a relational database, we have data in structured format, and this format is usually in tabular format where we have related rows of data and they have different columns, and this helps for efficient querying and manipulation of the data. Now, all of the data points that we have from the table where that data is contained, they're all related. For instance, we have the customers table. Everything we have in this customers table, we'll select all from customers. Everything we have on this customers table is related. We are talking about different customers. We are getting their first names, their last names, their phone number. So you can see the different data points we're getting for each, and each row is a data on its own, and each column is like a data level. So a column holds particular information, and a row holds all the information about a particular person. And so when we want to query data, we use what we call structured query language, which is SQL, and it's that language that we use to manage and manipulate data in a relational database management system. So when we have that, it allows us to define queries like this. It allows us to create, to modify, to also manipulate all of the records that we want to in that data set or in that database. So how do we query data? We've already seen an example of me using a select statement. A select statement, and then we have a select from statement. We can use a select statement to perform calculations and return a result. For instance, I'm not using the Classic Models. Let's say I want to get the current timestamp. I'll say select now that we're going to look at in the coming weeks, but I'm just using using this as an example to illustrate what will we get when we use select to perform an operation. So this gives us the current timestamp. We can also do a calculation like select 4 times 3 like this, and we'll get that. Now let's talk about this syntax. When we write SQL keywords, we use uppercase letter. It's not going to be wrong if you use lowercase. It's just like a convention that people use just for readability, to know that the SQL keywords or the commands were written in uppercase. But if you write it in lowercase, it still works. You just want to have a neat file. The semicolon is also optional. It just indicates the end of a statement. So the first thing you always want to write when you want to run queries is to indicate the database that you are using, and we indicate that by the use and then the name of the database. Now take note that when you first launch MySQL Workbench, you might actually be on the administration tab like this, and then for you to get to where the schemas are, which are the databases, you click on the schemas tab and it brings you here. All of these databases can be downloaded and added here, and again we're going to do that in our live class session for those who still have difficulties after watching this video. So this is how we use like the select statement and the basic syntax of SQL. Now we have the select from statement, and the syntax is select, and then you want to specify the column names from table name. So select is the command, and then you specify the names of the columns you want to select from, then the name of the table in that database that you want to select from. So let's say for instance we want to look at the customers table. For instance, we have a customers table here, so we want to say select all from, so select all from customers. We can say select, and all is indicated with an asterisk like this, from, and the name of the table is customers. And when I run this, I will get everything in the customers table, all the rows of information displayed here. So we see the different columns that we have here. Let's say we don't want to select all the columns, we just want a particular column name. So if you want to specify more than one column, you make it a comma separated list like this, and then from customers. So this way we don't have to return all the columns from the database table, but we just want to have just the names of the customer displayed. And so we do this, and it says select customer from this unknown column, customer last name. So you see, these are the kind of errors you will get. So you want to take a look at this stop sign here, and it says select customer name, customer last name, customer first name from customers, error code 1054, unknown column, customer last name, which means that our column customer last name is not correct. So let's look at what is the proper name for that column. So let's select all and run. So we'll see it is contact last name, not customer, and contact first name. So we'll do customer name. Alright, so take note of this error, because in previous classes that we've had, many students usually have this kind of errors and can't interpret them. So once you see things like this, you have to be able to read it. It is actually straightforward if you read it properly, and it says unknown column, and so I specified customer last name, and there is no column called customer last name, it is contact last name. And so we'll correct that, and then we run, and then we get just the customer name, the contact last name, and the contact first name. So this is where we end this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to look at how to sort the data after we query the data. Thank you, and see you in the next lesson.